All right, mate. How you doing? Welcome back to another episode of IMO. Today, a very interesting one, a very different one. We're talking about the coronavirus and whether it could affect or even cancel Euro 2020. There's loads to unpack here. I've got Seb with me. This is the new IMO format. Let's chat coronavirus. Okay, so Seb, before we get into this, we've got to say a few things. We are not medical experts or virus experts, or I don't even like the beer Corona. I am not going to make any guesses about what's going to happen in the future coronavirus.
No.
I just want to go with what we know now. And what we know now could get outdated very quickly. I'm going to try and get this video up as soon as possible because the numbers are changing all the time. We've just checked and they've now said there's 85 cases of, it's not even called coronavirus anymore. They've got a new name for it.
COVID-9. I think.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Just on that, I do believe that it is that strand that shows that it's from a type of influenza family, and it's the this corona is one of them. But it's very interesting we talk about that.
We
Just
should
to
get
start
rid of
things
the whole
off.
influenza family. Just move them out.
We should probably evict them. But just to talk about that name, Corona, beer sales of Corona globally are down significantly. Now that is, for me, a very unfortunate byproduct. Just to confirm, as far as we're aware, and I'm pretty sure I can be confident about this, there is no link between the beer Corona and the coronavirus. But saying that, people have gone out and shown that, which is incredibly unlucky for that brand.
Yeah.
It has knocked a lot of money off their share price.
Very unlucky for them.
It is just, I mean, it's
Why
crazy.
name your beer after a virus, though? Do you know what I mean?
Well, why name a virus after a beer?
I mean, my personal favourite beer is called SARS. No, I'm joking. I don't like beer, and we shouldn't joke about it because
No.
people are dying. What I do want to talk about is what you just said about panic buying, right? Or panic not buying. Certain people weren't ordering Chinese food because they thought it had
know.
come from China.
We ordered some stuff on Amazon, and because my wife Gina is pregnant, she was being very careful, as rightly so, and that's a big concern for me. She said we should wipe down things that are coming through the post. Now, I have checked and looked into that. You don't need to do that because the virus, this particular
Can
virus.
you be too careful?
Why not? You know, what's the cost of wiping stuff down? And I think that's an interesting thing to come out of all of this is that we are quite lucky, really, that this sort of thing doesn't happen more often. I mean, think about how
Yeah.
much travel there is now, how interglobal the world is. People go to far corners of the world. People have very different cultures, very different diets, very different lifestyles. This sort of thing, you know, is massive when it happens, but it's almost a bit surprising it's happened more.
Don't want us to go too off topic. We want to focus this one on football and Euro 2020.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I do want to say that it does feel like this could be the end of the world. Now, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm not scaremongering saying this is going to be the end of the world. I'm just saying one day this is how either the human race will stop or half of us will get wiped out.
Well, there's meant
because-
to be an asteroid hitting on April 29th.
And then you had the Australian bushfires a few months ago.
Yeah,
Like, it's all kicking off. The
dark
world
times.
is not happy. Saunders, our younger brother, is super eco-friendly nowadays. He's full vegan. Our parents have gone full vegan. And Saunders is saying that he believes, and he's got scientific proof to back up, that one of the reasons coronavirus is spreading and being allowed to spread so well is because of the change in climate across the world. That temperature change has allowed the virus to grow. So that we're not going to talk too much about that because we're not experts. It's not what this is about. This is about the Euros.
Yes.
Okay? People are getting scared of travel. I was in Italy about a week or two before Italy went into meltdown. No, I'm joking. I haven't got it. A
Not
week
funny.
or two before Italy went into meltdown for the Club World Cup, FIFA Club World Cup. And I was fine. They didn't take my temperature or anything in the airport. They've started doing that now. Travel's been cut down. We've got the Euros this summer. We've also got the
they
Olympics.
were the first country to have some of their top flight sporting events, Serie A, played behind closed doors. Some of
Yes.
them now, I believe, are even being postponed. We've had a Six Nations game postponed now.
Juve versus Inter, first versus second in Serie A, biggest game of the season, postponed.
Incredible. So it's starting to come. It's getting a lot more real. People are now talking about the Olympics being delayed.
That's
Uh,
later in the summer.
Some bookies have the Euros as much as odds on to be postponed.
Now, what would that mean? Let's play it. First of all, let's talk about why it would be postponed. Okay, the reason is what happens at Euros, World Cups, whatever, is people travel a lot. It's not just a congregation of they're saying anything more than 1,000 people is too many. Reason that we're seeing schools and whatnot close down, universities, take a break. So it's one, you've got the problem of congregation of people, lots of people in one space, easy to spread germs. But also, you've Euros, you've got travel. You've got people coming from different pockets. Not as bad as a World Cup or an Olympics, where they're travelling from every corner of the globe. But particularly in certain countries, and Italy, they might send a lot of people
When you
to a
talk about
place.
cross-pollination, it is the ultimate way to cross-pollinate people.
It's like the coronavirus planned it.
It's like come from every different part of a continent and mixed together in different parts, and then people to migrate from part to part to part. It's like basically saying if one person's infected, go to as many places as you can and infect as many people as possible. You couldn't think of many better ways to spread a virus than a global sporting event with multiple national venues.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. The fact that it's not hosted in one country. The first Euros ever that is going to be hosted across different countries. That means if you were on one of these, like when I went to Russia a few years ago, I went to every England game, so I travelled the way the England team travelled. If I was doing the same for this, England's a bad example because a lot of our games are going to be in England because we're one of the host countries. But let's say you're supporting a country that isn't a host country, you could go to 4 or 5 different countries across the Euros.
Right,
You're going to be spreading
let's
things.
talk about that practically. Right now, there is advice from the World Health Organization, as well as individual countries, that says if you go to certain places now, and these places are being categorised based on the number of cases, number of deaths. Billy Vunipola, one of the biggest players in the England rugby team, is currently self-isolating and he's missing an international first-class fixture.
Just from choice.
He has no symptoms. He's been advised, and he's said he's taking the advice of the authorities.
Because he travelled somewhere.
Because he travelled to I think to I forget, Fuji. It might be Fuji, or one of the countries he went to is somewhere that if you visit, you self-isolate. So by the time the Euros comes around, Italy already in certain parts is self-isolation. If you go there, there could be 3 or 4 other countries.
We've had
you might have some
areas-
players not able to play, let alone fans not able to go.
That's a good point.
I can't see on the current trajectory that there's any way the Euros can happen.
Yeah. And this is what the debate is. The debate's not whether we want it to happen, guys. It's about whether it
Absolutely
should
not.
happen and whether it's safe.
And then it's the case of if it's played behind closed doors, then should it happen? What do you rather, guys? Are Euros we can watch with empty stadiums at home, all self-isolating, or a Euros in the future, or delay it a year? There is precedent for that.
This is the thing, right?
In other sports.
We'll touch on that in a second, but one thing I'm definitely guilty of, and I know a lot of you guys in the comments will be guilty of it, is we're all very big football fans, right? And it's easy to put football first sometimes and not think about the bigger picture. It's something that I've stressed before in this channel when I made my video about
Yeah,
racism,
absolutely,
and I was saying, look, some things are bigger. If it means cancelling games, if it means teams missing out on points because they're making a stand, that's good. We should do that to make the world a better place. This is a different thing. This is a thing that is... well, it's the same in that it's an illness in many ways. It affects people. Racism, I believe, is an illness, and so is the coronavirus. However, this is something that's not coming from one type of person or one type of area. It's threatening every single person, and we don't know how to stop it right now. The latest reports you told me earlier that
I read
its
something
peak
on
next year.
Sky News that the UK, the forecasts are that up to 80% of the country could get it, and the peak of the virus's height, so the pandemic stage, could be as late as next January.
A lot of people thought once the weather
that.
heats
I
up,
was thinking it was going to end this
spring summer was going to cancel it out. Not so much.
Apparently not. So it's basically on everything that people are saying. You know, China obviously is where this so apparently started, but we have had reports coming out of China this week that their numbers of increased cases are declining. Now, what they've done in China is unprecedented measures. You know, there's that incredible time lapse where they built like the most enormous 2,000 bed hospital from a mud pile from absolute scratch in 10 days. I think it's either 10 or 50,000 workers like that to turn up and make this stuff. And everyone's been in this isolation. They've really gone. They've basically just stopped the country. We don't seem to be willing to do that sort of thing. Certainly not yet. And if we don't do things like that, I can't see how this will not escalate to a point where we have to go full DEFCON and start cancelling stuff.
Speaking of full DEFCON, one thing I'd advise some of you guys do if you haven't done it already, and I'm guilty of this as well, I don't watch a lot of news. I stay away from it. A lot of it is scaremongering or fearmongering or about things that I'm always looking at football, I'm looking at sports news, and I'm a little bit guilty of being a little bit slow to be updated on some of the world issues. I started turning the news on a bit more recently because of this, and I mean, it depends if you want to be scared or not, because it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. And Alex and I are going to be going to Costco soon, and it sounds ridiculous, panic buying, but we're going to get a load of tinned food. We're going to get, hopefully, some antibacterial hand wash, which is sales have multiplied by more than 300% now. In fact, in some countries, I believe, including Italy, they've nationalised antibacterial hand wash, which means the stock control of it now is no longer an issue. If you're a private company that sells it, it's been taken over by the government to control how much of it gets handed out and given to people. So people are obviously trying to keep the germs off and make sure your hands are clean and whatnot. And this is another reason why the Euros is such a big talking point is some people are saying, well, what's so bad about this? It's got flu-like symptoms. If you're under a certain age, if you've got a good immune system, you're going to be fine. And that remains the case. It's got a 3.4% mortality rate right now. So if it's 100 people that got it, between 3 and 4 of them are likely to die, right? The Spanish flu, which killed 50 million people in 1918, died from the Spanish flu. That had a 4% mortality rate, which is similar. Okay, that was a different time.
Very different time.
Medical things and whatnot. But the thing about this is it's not so much about dying from it. I am hopefully safe, and I'm saying that there's no way I'm going to die from this.
Very important about
but it's
this.
about carrying it.
Well, this is it, because we've all, or most of us have, grandparents, and there is significantly higher mortality rates in people over 50.
Yes.
People who have respiratory problems, people who have underlying health conditions, It does seem to be not as bad in the younger people. But as I said, you can get something. A lot of people have this and don't know, and may never know. They may literally think they've got a bit of a cough and a cold, and that's all you need to have, possibly, to be able to carry it. You go and see your grandmother. Your grandmother's in a home with lots of other grandmothers and grandparents, and before you know it, that whole home's wiped out.
It's not even as direct as that. It's you could just see another young person and give it to them, and they could give it to their grandmother. So as inconvenient as it would be, because if I get it, right, I'm very confident I'm not going to die from it. But I will have to self-isolate. I will have to. It's a responsibility of all of us, because I could kill someone else by giving it to them. And it's so inconvenient to think that you're going to have to sit inside for 3 weeks, and it's going to affect people's livelihoods. And they've changed, for example, today, they've said that the statutory sick pay, instead of coming in after 4 days, now comes in after 1 day. People are scared they're going to lose money.
I go into London a lot for meetings, and a lot of companies in London now are not accepting visitors anymore. They are doing those sorts of things. Handshakes, and out of the 4 meetings I had this week, 3 of the places said to me upon arrival, we don't do handshakes anymore. And there's antibacterial wash everywhere. So people are starting to do it. Corporate business have to take responsibility. Gina's company is one of them. They've stopped all
so speaking of responsibility, let's bring it back to football, right?
Yeah.
Because we've all talked about now many times how we know this is a thing. We don't know how many people are going to die from it. We know it's a thing. Whose responsibility is it to call off the Euros? Is it UEFA's? We don't know. This is speculation, guys. We're talking about. Is it the World Health Organization? Can they say, guys, Euros are off? UEFA, do they have to step up and make the call themselves before it comes to that?
I think it has to be a group decision or group conversation between UEFA, World Health Organization, and the people who are hosting the tournament, because it's their country, they know the risk in their country. But to be honest, in this instance, you probably have to put a little bit more onus on someone like UEFA, because you might have some of the countries going, hey, we'll do it. And what you might see is they move it. Because of this multi-international tournament this year, maybe they say, right, now we are going to do more games in this country.
But with a country, even England has got one of the best kind of football infrastructures in the world. At this late notice, could we still facilitate
I'll be honest now, Spen, and any other time in my life, I would say the complete opposite to this. I wouldn't want all the games. I don't want potential additional risk of infecting this country. It sounds awful, but you don't want the spread.
I don't mind the idea of I kind of do go into self-isolation every time there is a Euros, because I stay at home and watch all the games on TV. True. So if that was to happen, that's what I'd do. I'd self-isolate even if I had no symptoms and just watch the games. But yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where you want to know where the threshold is. How bad does it have to get before it no longer becomes an option? You know, how long or far is it before Premier League games are either being played behind closed doors, which, by the way, and it's not just Premier League, right? If they're saying anything over 1,000 people at a game is unsafe, then, for example, at a League 2 game, or even lower than that, National League game, these guys can't afford to play games behind closed doors. That's going to affect their money.
Yeah, absolutely. And
they can't pay the wages of the players.
Liverpool need to hurry up and get those next 4 wins, that's all I'm going to say.
That is the thing that non-Liverpool fans are hoping for. Not me. I actually don't mind Liverpool
win
the league.
To win the league this
but
year.
if you don't want them to win the league, you're hoping the Premier League, because it hasn't played maybe enough games, it just gets cancelled this year.
So the bookmakers on that, the bookmakers is quite heavy that the Premier League will finish. They haven't said there's an odds on whether or not it will finish behind closed doors or not. But I found it very interesting that the bookies had it as odds on that the Euros will be postponed.
Right, let's finish this video with our opinion, because that's what this is, our IMO. Will the Euros take place at the dates it's supposed to take place this year?
Will it, or do I want it to?
Will it? Your prediction?
Right now, if I had to predict, it's very close either way. I'd probably have to lean towards no.
I think you're right, but as a point of difference, I'm going to say I hope somehow something happens in the next few weeks, some sort of vaccine comes out, and it happens. But realistically, if I was putting money on it, I would also put money on it not to happen, which is a real shame, but there's bigger things to worry about here. Same question for the Premier League. Do you think we'll finish the Premier League?
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be behind closed doors games?
Do I think there'll be behind closed doors games? I think there'll be some, yeah. I do think that'll end up happening.
I think that for some people like myself who've been a little bit removed from it, a little bit guilty of not keeping up with the news as much, when it hits the thing you really are passionate about, and it's not just football, it's all sports and it's non-sporting activities as well, that's when it really rains home and you're like, oh wow, this is actually a major thing.
But think about some of the other sports, you know, the very nature of the fabric of the sport is travelling to a different place, like Formula E, for example, what Saunders works on. They're going to a different country or a different part of the world, continent sometimes, every single week. So a lot of those, one of the Formula 1 Grand Prix has been called off already.
I think what we can agree on, guys, is that we're past the point of no return.
Yep.
Things are going to get impacted. As Serie A has already been impacted, so far just postponements, but I think there'll be a point where an event, a tournament or a fixture is cancelled in some way, shape or form. We remain interested in this, of course. Let us know in the comments below what you're thinking about this. Has it affected your life in any way? Maybe the school or university or workplace that you go to, as you've not been able to go to it. I'd love to know where you're watching from. You might be from one of the countries like Italy. Maybe you're watching this whilst in isolation. It sounds silly, but it's genuinely a possibility. Someone watching this could be in isolation. They could even have the virus themselves. So if anyone you know or yourself has been affected by it, we hope you get better. We hope it clears up. We'll of course make any other videos in the future about it if it develops, but hope you enjoyed hearing this debate and this discussion. Drop a like if you did. Subscribe for more IMOs coming soon. Hopefully we're still around.
Why don't we get
to make some more.
everyone just go, including us, just go wash your hands now.
Yeah, as soon as you finish this video, wash your hands.
For 20 seconds.
And then come back and watch another one. See you soon. Don't go change it.
Do come back.